In this next procedure, we'll use the Nmap program to analyze our server and view which ports are open. To demonstrate this, I'm going to go to the command line and switch to the Nmap folder. That's where I extracted the files to after I downloaded them. And this is a free download that you can get from nmap.org or insecure.org. The command is nmap. And I want to do a standard scan of the server to see what ports are open. So I'm going to use the -S capital S parameter and of course the IP address of the server. This is going to take a moment. It's going to start up the Nmap program and then it's going to scan the server. It's already done so a little faster. But it shows us what ports are open. Here we see port 21, so we know that the server is running the FTP service. 23, meaning that the server is running the Telnet service. Not really a good idea to have 23 open, so we should definitely close that. 53, which is DNS. We're going to need that because the server is a domain controller and a DNS server. 80, or HTTP, so we know that that server is running as a web server as well. 88 for Kerberos, which is needed for login to domains, and a lot of other ports. Now let's say that I didn't want to have 21 or 23 or 80 open. You can't just close ports unless you use a firewall. The best thing to do, and the best first line of defense, is to turn off any unnecessary services. So let's say that we don't want FTP, Telnet, or HTTP anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the server and I'm going to go to my MMC and we'll go to the services section in the MMC and we'll turn off any unnecessary services. Okay, here we have the FTP publishing service. That's port 21. And here's the www World Wide Web publishing service, port 80. I can turn off both of those by going to the IIS admin service. They are dependent, or I should say the FTP and the www services are dependent on the IIS admin service. So if I turn this guy off, he's going to turn off World Wide Web Publishing Service, FTP, and HTTP SSL. So we'll say yes for that. That turns off each of the services individually, and then the IIS admin service. Also, we mentioned Telnet. We want to turn that guy off as well. So I'm actually going to double click on this, stop the service, and change this to disabled so it won't even have a chance to start up when the server ever restarts. Click OK for that. And we'll go back to the laptop where we're doing our scans. And that's the great thing about Nmap. You can run this from any computer as long as you have a command line, really. And I'm going to run that scan again. Just press the up arrow and enter. And you'll notice that 21 is gone, 23 is gone, 80 is gone. So the scan is successful. You can also scan with Nmap. They have a GUI version they call ZenMap. I usually like to use the command line version, but this may work for you as well. And we'll connect to the server again with this scan, and we'll do a regular scan. That'll take a moment to get that information. And it tells us basically the same information here. Another one you may want to turn off is 3389. Now, of course, I'm using that for RDP. They call it MS Terminal Services, but RDP, or Remote Desktop Protocol, is allowing me to control that server remotely during these videos. So it may be you want to turn that off in the future. Maybe you want to use a different program to access your servers, like VNC. Using port scanners to analyze our firewall. In this last procedure, we'll utilize Nmap to test for any open ports on our ISA server, and we'll use Shields Up to test the ports on our multifunction device. To demonstrate this, I'll go to the command line, and I've already run a scan to the ISA server. Now, the interface that I'm concerned with is the WAN interface on the server. And the best way to scan this is to connect a computer like a laptop directly to the server. The network adapter of the laptop should connect directly to the network adapter of the server. And you can do this by way of a crossover cable. Then we want to run the nmap command, and I use the -p0 parameter. Now you may remember in the past we used the -S capital S parameter. The problem with that particular switch is that it pings the computer and then scans the ports once it gets a reply from the ping. Well, you can't ping the ISA server on the external port once it's running because ICMP is going to be blocked. So we need to use -p0, which is don't ping. And it took about 5 minutes, but it says here all 1663 scanned ports on 65.43.18.1 are filtered, so it's secured. So we can utilize nmap and connect via crossover cable to test that WAN port after we set up our firewall. Likewise, we can test our multifunction device, and I like to use a website to do so. I go to grc.com, and they have a port scanner built into their website. There's a lot of port scanners out there. I like this one. It's called Shields Up. And if we scroll down, we'll go down to the Shields Up option. And that's going to tell us a lot of information here. We're going to proceed. And we have to select what type of scan we want to do. There's a lot of possibilities here, but I'm just going to use common ports. So it's going to look at the most common ports, 21, 23, 53, 80, those types of things. It sees our IP address. That's our public IP that's being displayed to the internet by the multifunction device, and it tells us passed. And it says here all these ports are stealth. FTP, SSH, Telnet, SMTP, HTTP, etc. They're all in stealth mode. Now if it said open, well, that's not good. That means you have a security leak, so to speak. It may be that you have to have a port open in order to run a service. You may also see the option where it says closed. You really want it to say stealth. You want everything to be shielded on your firewall, regardless of what firewall you're using. So there's a couple examples of port scanners you can use to test your firewalls.